In this video, we discuss how to be an effective design leader, and I'm joined by Executive Vice President of Design, Andy Vitale. Welcome to How to Business. I am Frederick Weiss, and in this video, we are joined by Andy Vitale, Executive Vice President of Design and co-host of the Surfacing Podcast. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Frederick. I'm super happy to be here.
Super happy to have you. Andy, before we jump into our subject, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a design executive, a speaker, and an educator. I've been in the design industry for over 20 years. I love to solve complex problems for people in really interesting spaces.
That's great. Thank you so much for that context, Andy. I'm so excited to get to our subject today, which is just fascinating to me, and I'm sure it is to you, how to be an effective design leader. First off, what qualifies someone as an effective design leader?
That's a great question. When we think about effective leaders, it doesn't have to have the title design in there. But since we are really focused on the design portion of leadership, like anything else, it's how do we apply design or design methodologies, human-centered practices to create value, not just for the people, the clients that we have, the people who use our products or services, but really for the company. How do we show that value to the company that's driven through design? And it ranges, right? It's from anything to amplifying the work of the team, to creating an environment for people to do their best work, to building a lot of relationships, having some difficult conversations, just doing whatever you can to create that space for your design team to be as effective as possible.
That being said, does someone need to actually be a great designer or be a great leader, as you were saying, and empower people to do their jobs correctly? Is that the main thing that we're looking to identify?
I think it needs to be a balance of all three, to be honest. In some organizations, in some companies, being an effective leader is enough. You can actually have someone come in that has leadership experience and be able to lead a team and maybe doesn't have that domain expertise or that subject matter knowledge, but they get that team in a place where that team can actually eventually stand up on its own and build that right leadership, and then they can move on. But when you really want to empower design or leverage design as a strategic partner in an organization, as an organizational competency, it really is 100%. You need someone that understands human-centered practices, the ability to take design and really help evolve the company leveraging design. So you don't have to be the best hands-on designer anymore, but you have to understand those key principles, how to apply them, how to scale them, how to really solve problems. I think that we have to remember that design is a way that the organization solves problems for humans. And the only way to really be able to solve problems through that design lens is to have done that before. I think it's really important, but it's not just that. It's the collaborative nature of design inherently is collaborative. Being able to, like I said earlier, just those relationships are super important, the knowledge that you have of design, but not just design, it's the partners that we work with and how to leverage all of those partners to deliver that best work.
You pointed out something that I want to dive a little bit deeper into, the granular level of responsibilities of an effective design leader.
It depends on the size of the team and the maturity of the team. So you can be a design leader with a small team and be really deep in the weeds and helping drive a lot of those decisions. Or you can be part of a large organization where maybe you don't have a lot of input in the day-to-day. You're actually working behind the scenes to amplify that work and move strategic levers and what makes sense for the team to work on and where can you add the most value. Really, the sweet spot is definitely in between. So our design organization is well over 100 people, and we've got different layers of leadership over our key products. But for me, I like to stay close to the work. I like to be able to drive that strategy, to have a vision for the work that we do. And that vision is in collaboration with our product and engineering partners. As a leader, you're accountable for everything that the team does. And you really need to stay on top of what the team is doing and have that awareness of what's going on in the organization so that you can answer to people that ask questions throughout the organization when you're meeting with them throughout the week or the month or the day, but also being able to kick the tires, right? You want to make sure that the thinking that went into the design work and the products is as solid as it can be. So I love to pop in into critiques. I love to have one-on-ones with team members. I love to have one-on-ones with leaders. I love to jump into group settings. I like to keep my finger on the pulse so that I can start to question things. I think as a leader, the best thing that you can do is ask why a lot, right? Try to understand the key rationale that went into the decisions that are being made so that you can start to shape that too, to make sure that it aligns to the vision, that it aligns to the corporate strategy, that it aligns to what the organization wants to do to drive revenue. It really is. It's just a balance of being able to effectively lead people through decisions at different levels or different altitudes throughout an organization.
It's not about being a boss, it's about being a leader, which is a very different thing. It's about asking questions, not commanding, right? And helping people grow. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think the growth of the team is literally like the number one thing that any leader can do. For me, I mention it a lot. I like to talk about a destination workplace, creating that environment where people come and they get better at their craft and better at their craft in both the way they use design to solve problems, but the way they communicate it out, the way that they just, hard and soft skills is the most basic way to break that down. But you want to create this environment where the people in the team, you hope they stay forever, but maybe they don't. Maybe they leave and they become part of your portfolio, but they had such a great time. They were doing their best work, they were learning, they were growing. You were giving them opportunities to really stretch themselves and challenge them. And at some point, hopefully they refer people back to that system, because that's a place where I really got good at design, where I did a lot of my great work. That's the environment that we want to create.
I love that. So you, of course, yourself became a design leader. Is that something that people can aspire to and become, or is it something that just happens? Is it what I'm getting at here is I see a lot of times organically in organizations, people grow naturally into a leadership position. They take on things, they know things, and they become a leader. And that may be the same case with a design leader. But if someone has aspirations to become a design leader, how do they go about that? Is there any kind of principles, advice that you could provide or resource?
I think the first and foremost, you can lead no matter what your title is. I think being able to lead conversations, being able to be a thought leader, being able to do work that inspires others and gets people really excited about what you're doing, that's the first opportunity to lead. Then always look to how can you help others grow? How can you become a mentor to other people? And then you start to get seen as that leader, and opportunities start to present themselves as that happens. Even for me, there was an opportunity in one of my earliest transitions to a leader when I was at 3M. We were working on enterprise software for healthcare, and it was me and one other designer. We did a pilot project and we showed a lot of potential cost savings, increased productivity, all the things that we measure. And that was on one piece of software, and they had tons of them. So it's now here's this opportunity for us to take this and apply it to all of these other areas. And it was a space that we didn't have a lot of design support. So naturally, me talking about, hey, this would be a great idea for us to do. This is the space. This is how I would structure the team. They're like, all right, go ahead and do it. So these opportunities are ones you have to see and build that influence over time. And then when the opportunity presents itself, just ask. The worst that they could say is, no, you're not ready for that yet. And then you say, okay, I understand. What training can you offer me? What opportunities can eventually present themselves down the road? And have those open conversations with your boss for sure. Resources. I think there's a couple of interesting design leadership books that are coming out, but
Mhm.
I think just right, it's not always about design. It's again, it's about how we apply design to the rest of the company. So understand how the company operates. Subscribe to Harvard Business Review, read TechCrunch, read Fast Company, read all of these articles. There is leadership development and things like that, but really, you learn like anything else from making a few mistakes. Look for opportunities to lead and then ask for feedback whenever you're working with someone. Maybe you want to become a mentor on something like ADP list, ask for feedback after that. See if you actually provided value. Your job as a leader is to provide value to the people that you serve. I'm a firm believer in servant leadership, that I work for my team, not that my team works for me.
I love that. Yeah. Look for the opportunities, show your intent, and try to provide value where you can. That's great advice. Thank you again so much for that, Andy. And we're at the end of the show here. Andy, can you tell us where people could find out more information about yourself?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn more often than any other social platform right now. So LinkedIn, Andy Vitale. I'm on Twitter also, same thing, Andy Vitale, or email me. Really, shoot me an email, andy@andyvitale.com. Oh, and I co-host the Surfacing podcast with Lisa Welchman. So you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts.
An excellent podcast, by the way. I very much enjoy it. Andy, we're at the end of our show now. I'd like to provide you an opportunity for some closing words of wisdom for our audience.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that if we're talking leadership, the number one thing is look around at your team, make sure that you've got representation, make sure that you're building a sense of psychological safety, make sure that the team feels comfortable challenging you. I think that we need to make sure that we're amplifying all of the voices on the team, especially those who are typically not amplified. As leaders, it's our job to grow that team. And if you're talking about anything in general, just be curious, right? We talked a little bit about asking questions. It's the only way to really grow. Just stay curious and stay learning.
Thank you so much for that, Andy. And thank you so much for joining the show. Really appreciate you being here today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Frederick.
Thank you.